I used to think love was a currency that inflated with every shared hardship. 4 years of marriage to Callie proved me half right. The feeling did grow, but so did the cost of keeping it alive. We were expert jugglers of late fees and side gigs. My 9-to-5 at Midstate Auto Parts paid enough to cover the rent on our one-bedroom walk-up, the '09 Civic's monthly gasp, and whatever groceries I could stretch into leftovers on Sundays. Callie worked part-time at a neighborhood salon, sweeping hair, booking customers, and experimenting on her own curls during slow afternoons. Our apartment perched over Main Street like a tired pigeon. At night, I'd sit on the fire escape with a mug of grocery store brand coffee and watch traffic lights cycle through colors they never got tired of wearing. Inside, Callie sketched fashion designs in a spiral notebook, humming whatever pop song had colonized radio that week. We didn't own much, but what we had felt ours: the hand-me-down futon whose middle bar stabbed my back if I shifted wrong, the thrift store record player stuck on 33 1/3, even the squeaky faucet that turned brushing our teeth into rhythm practice. Still, money whispered its relentless psalms. Every commercial break reminded us of vacations we couldn't take, phones we couldn't upgrade. I did extra shifts unloading trucks. Callie sold vintage dresses online. Even our date nights involved coupons and gas station chocolate bars disguised in candlelight. Yet in those slim moments, her head on my shoulder during a $5 movie matinee, life felt balanced, taut as a tent rope holding us above the mud. Balance shattered on a Thursday in March. Callie waited for me at the kitchen table, phone face down, lips pursed in a look I'd started calling her PowerPoint expression, ready to present slides I hadn't asked for. "I've been thinking," she said before I could unlace my boots. Nothing good ever followed that phrase in marriage, especially when spoken with corporate cadence. I braced for another discussion about moving closer to her parents or adopting a rescue dog. Instead, she breathed a single word like a lit match: OnlyFans. She let it hover between us, waiting for reaction. My face must have betrayed enough confusion, because she continued, "It's just personal content. Pictures, maybe short videos. People subscribe monthly. Some creators make 6 figures. My boots thudded to the floor. "Callie, you want to sell yourself online?" "It doesn't have to be." She leaned forward, palms open, voice slow, as though explaining Wi-Fi to a Victorian tourist. "It can be boudoir, laundry, even just fitness stuff. Empowerment." I laughed, a brittle sound. "I bust my back hauling crankshaft so we don't end up on the street, and you want to sell selfies." She flinched but held her ground. "It's not selling myself, Ethan. It's leveraging my image. Modern couples are doing this together all the time." "We're not modern enough then." For a beat, neither of us spoke. The refrigerator rattled in the silence. Callie's eyes softened. "Look, I'm not trying to upset you, but we need extra income. This could cover student loans, maybe even let you cut back your hours." The logic was dressed smartly, but I saw the nakedness beneath. "No, I can't support that." Her jaw set. "You can't tell me what to do with my body." "That's not what I'm doing." She stood, chair legs screeching. "Think about it," she said, retreating to the bedroom. The click of the lock felt like a vote counted against me. That night I lay awake listening to shower water drum the tiles. Steam seeped under the door, carrying lavender shampoo and stubborn tension. When Callie finally slipped into bed, she lay on her side, back to me, phone glowing. I stared at the ceiling, counting cracks. Some things, one suggested, split the surface even if no one acted on them. Also, I told myself. For a while the topic vanished like a deer startled back into the woods. We fell into old routines. Hurried breakfast, work, rinse-repeat dinner scraped from skillets still tasting of yesterday's garlic. Callie didn't mention OnlyFans again, and I forced myself to believe she dropped it. Spring bled into early summer. Bill still arrived dressed in red ink, but we managed. I saved pennies in a pickle jar labeled Beach Trip, more Hope Chesson savings account. One humid evening, Callie emerged from the bedroom wearing a sundress that cut just above the knee, makeup more deliberate than usual. "Going for drinks with the salon girls," she said, grabbing her purse. I smiled, proud she finally let herself unwind. "Have fun. Text me if you need a ride." She kissed my cheek, lips sugary with lipstick she rarely wore, and was gone. In hindsight, that night should have felt off, The way she kept checking her reflection in the toaster, how she hesitated before telling me which bar. But suspicion needs fertilizer. Blind trust starves it. As weeks passed, these outings became routine. Tuesdays and Fridays she'd glide out the door after dinner, returning after midnight with a sweet and sour scent of cheap wine and overpriced perfume. She'd slip into bed, sliding my hand from her waist if it wandered. When I asked gently whether everything was okay, she'd murmur, "Tired, babe." So I convinced myself marriage came in seasons, and this was a dormant one. July humidity turned the apartment into a terrarium. We couldn't afford better AC, so I worked shirtless in the living room, fan wheezing at my back. Callie took longer showers and blow-dried her hair just to feel cool air. One Sunday I stepped out of the bathroom to find our bedroom door locked. Inside, Callie's voice floated in muffled tones. I knocked, worried. "Everything okay?" "Just getting dressed," she called. The door opened a crack, revealing her flushed face and the faint glow of a ring light bouncing off the walls. My brain registered the device, but not its implication. She pulled me into a kiss before I could ask anything. "Lunch?" she asked lightly. I nodded, confusion tucked away like an unpaid bill. It wasn't until the truck of suspicion finally rolled over me months later that I remembered the ring light detail, how obvious clues appear in retrospect, shining like coins we never bent to pick up. 6 months after Callie first said OnlyFans, I was restocking brake pads at work when Mark from shipping sidled up, phone in hand and grin half-cocked. "Yo, Ethan, check this out." He flashed a photo before I could register content warnings. In it, a woman posed on a crimson satin sheet, laundry black as wet ink, hair tousled with purposeful chaos. Her face was partially obscured by cropped framing, but I'd have known those freckles and crescent moon dimples anywhere. My gut went glacier cold. "Where'd you get that?" "OnlyFans, dude." "She's fire," he laughed, not noticing the tremor in my hands. I was like, no way Ethan's wife is on here. But hey, side hustles, right? He slapped a friendly palm on my shoulder and walked off, whistling. I stood frozen between shelves. The warehouse air screeched with the forklift's reverse beeps, but I heard only my pulse. Lunch break found me in the men's room, door bolted, Mark's phone borrowed under pretext of needing to call the supplier. I opened the app, typed username Calibel87 he'd mentioned in passing. Up popped a banner. $14.99 per month. Subscribe to see all 84 posts. I didn't click. The preview grid alone was enough. Callie in various states of undress, teasing, winking, sprawled across the same red satin sheet that, I realized, was our thrift store quilt flipped to its underside. Hands trembling, I scrolled far enough to notice likes in the thousands and comments showering heart-eye emojis and explicit compliments. Mark wasn't the only co-worker following. Usernames I recognized sprouted like weeds, guys from the factory floor, even a supervisor. Heat rose to my temples, part fury, part humiliation. This wasn't empowerment. It was my marriage auction a subscription at a time. Even worse, she'd done it without telling me. My earlier veto hadn't slowed her. She'd just gone covert. The workday blurred. I miscounted boxes, sliced my thumb open on a cardboard edge deep enough to need 3 butterfly bandages. On the drive home, each red light felt personal. Callie was in the kitchen when I arrived, mixer humming, flour dusting her cheek like accidental war paint. Cupcakes, the peace offering she baked when never guilt visited. I placed my phone on the counter, open to her profile. She looked up, smile fading. "Explain," I said. She set the mixer bowl down with exaggerated calm. "So you found it." 6 months of lying. Callie. My voice cracked on the hinge between rage and heartbreak. After I said no. "You don't own me," she snapped, crossing arms. "My body, my choice. I tried to include you. You shut it down. Bills didn't. But you promised we were partners. Partners don't hide second incomes, especially ones that involve broadcasting private parts to half the county." She exhaled, eyes shining. I was tired of feeling trapped. On camera, I'm free. And guess what? Free pays better than your overtime. Her words landed like shrapnel. "How much?" "Does it matter?" "Yes," I said, voice low. "In marriage, it matters." She lifted her chin. $23 grand. Net. In 6 months. The number hung between us, obscene in its magnitude, more than I'd earned after taxes in that span. I reached for the cupcake's cooling tray, needing something to grip. And you didn't tell me because? Because you'd react exactly like this. Silence thickened. Outside, a siren wailed down Main Street. Lights from passing cars flickered across the room like paparazzi. Finally she spoke, quieter. Ethan, I'm not stopping. This is my future. You can stay or you can leave. 4 years of wedding vows, weekend getaways, and whispered dreams shuddered beneath that ultimatum. My answer came like muscle memory. I turned, grabbed my keys, and left. Pride kept me from sleeping on friends' couches, so I checked into the cheapest motel off Interstate 14. The wallpaper smelled of cigarettes extinguished a decade ago, but at least betrayal couldn't follow me there. I spent the night trawling legal forums under glow of a flickering bedside lamp. Community property, spousal rights, digital learnings. Divorce law rabbit holes devour sanity as readily as free Wi-Fi consumes nights. At dawn, I called a lawyer who's had promised aggressive representation at compassionate prices. By lunch, I sat across from Ms. Delgado in her office above a bail bondsman. She listened without interrupting, tapping notes into a tablet. When I finished, she glanced up, brown eyes steady. In this state, she began, all income generated during marriage is marital property, regardless of which spouse owned it. So half is mine. In theory, yes, but proof matters. We'll need statements, bank deposits, platform payout reports. I don't have access. She smiled thinly. Then we get it. I left her office clutching a checklist that read like a heist plan. Over the next week, I re-entered the apartment only when Callie was at the salon. I copied bank records from her laptop, photographed a whiteboard in the closet scroll with subscription numbers, captured screenshots of her OnlyFans analytics page left minimized on the taskbar. Each discovery widened the chasm. She'd earned nearly $42,000. Some spent on clothes and equipment, but most sat in a separate account titled CB Social Media LLC. I filed for divorce citing irreconcilable differences. Callie was served papers at work. Ms. Delgado said the salon's receptionist reported quite a scene. Texts exploded my phone that night. You vindictive jerk. Half my earnings? Over my dead body. We could have been a team. I muted the thread, letting rage echo into voicemail purgatory. Divorce proceedings move slower than Glacier until they don't. By December, we faced each other across a mediation table, lawyers flanking us like pit bulls on short chains. Callie arrived in a tailored blazer, confidence curated for social media highlights. I came in the same off-brand suit I'd worn to my cousin's wedding. Ms. Delgado opened with our asset list, civic equity, 401k barely old enough to walk, couch of questionable resale value, and the elephant in the room. CB Social Media LLC. Callie's attorney argued the platform violated my consent but was nonetheless a separate enterprise. Ms. Delgado countered with state statutes and the phrase marital effort, noting I'd supported Callie by paying majority of living expenses while she built her brand. Negotiations felt like haggling over the price of ghosts. But numbers eventually overcame principles. We settled at a 50-50 split of net income earned up to the signing date, plus Callie retained full ownership going forward in exchange for relinquishing claim to my retirement fund in the car. I walked out feeling neither victory nor defeat, only relief, the way you feel stepping off a ferry whose engine kept sputtering mid-crossing. Word of the divorce spread through town quicker than news of a sale at the pawn shop. Co-workers offered awkward condolences. Someone scrawled simp on my locker. Someone else erased it before I could. Callie's subscriber count soared. Controversy sells. Yet every time her thumbnail popped up in my suggested feed, I scrolled past. Some wounds close better when not repicked. 14 months after our kitchen confrontation, I stood in a half-empty apartment in Riverview Heights, an actual 2-bedroom with central air that didn't wheeze. My half of the settlement, after legal fees, covered first and last month's rent plus a security deposit, and enough left over to start evening classes in vac repair. The night before orientation, I drove out to Miller's Bluff overlooking the river. Winter air bit my cheeks, but I rolled down the window anyway, needing cold clarity. I thought of Callie, of how she'd once traced hearts in fogged glass and written us inside them. I hoped she found whatever freedom she chased. Maybe, in some alternate timeline, would have navigated changing tides without capsizing. But this timeline gave me a blank map and enough ink to draw new borders. I pulled on my jacket, stepped out of the car, and watched the river roll black under moonlight, vast, indifferent, endlessly moving forward. I inhaled until my lungs ached, exhaled months of stale air. Tomorrow the sun would rise over a city still deciding if spring had arrived. I would study thermodynamics and ductwork, lose myself in mechanical puzzles where every problem had a logical fix. And for the first time since I'd said, I do, the only body I needed permission to govern was my own. What did you think of this story? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments, and thanks for listening.